Hello, welcome to my video. For those of you who know me, my name's Paul, and if this is your first visit here, hi, you're very welcome indeed. You know that film Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where you had all those people building mountains out of mashed potato or clay or whatever because they were inspired by the aliens that were coming? Well, this isn't about aliens. However, I do feel that there's a lot of us that are starting to find that our spirit, our soul, our higher self is trying to get in touch. So this video is about my journey, about how my higher self has finally got in touch with me, what it's like, what it feels like, so that when it happens to you, and it will happen to you if you're watching this video, I'm convinced that you're here because you're building a potato mountain out of mash. So, I'm convinced that you're here for this reason. So if you watch through to the end, you will see how my journey has turned out, why I'm here and why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I'm making videos on YouTube, why I'm talking about Jesus Christ the man, why I'm saying that Christianity doesn't follow what Jesus Christ the man was teaching. And I think it's important that we all know that. And my soul is talking to me, and I want you to understand how my soul talks to me, so that when your soul talks to you, your spirit, whatever you want to call it, your higher self, you'll understand that what's being said to you. I'd like to get that out of the way. When I say soul, I'm talking about whatever it might be. Your inner kingdom, your higher self, your spirit, the all, the universe. We all have different names for it. Bottom line is, we're all talking about the same thing. So, watch the video, see my journey, understand how my journey went, watch it to the end and you'll see how it turned out, how it has turned out for me, why I'm making these videos, and I'm hoping that you might join the community and you might also find yourself being able to talk with your spirit, soul, higher self, whatever you want to call it. So do enjoy the video, do like and subscribe, it helps the channel, it helps me get out to more people who might be making mashed potato mountains. And do you remember there was another film called Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner, where something was just telling him to build a field, a baseball field, and they will come. Well, I was told to make these YouTube channels, and I can see that it's starting to build. And I want you to understand that journey and where I'm coming from. So please, sit back, it's not that long, do enjoy it, and I shall look forward to seeing you on my next videos. And thank you for coming. It's a real pleasure to have you here.
Looking back, I now realise that my soul journey began long before I was consciously aware of it. My higher self had been communicating with me for years, but I wasn't always ready to listen or understand. Perhaps it was all part of the preparation, gently guiding me towards a deeper understanding. It began with one of those perfect family Sundays that feel like a gift from the universe. My 2 adult sons, their wives and my grandchildren had all gathered around our dining table alongside my wife and teenage daughter. The room was a joyful chaos of mismatched chairs, garden seats propped up with cushions, kitchen bar stools adding height to the lively conversation. Love and laughter filled the air as I sat back, savouring the wonderful contentment of having my loved ones near me. Amidst the chatter, my younger son suddenly turned to me with a question that stopped me in my tracks. "Dad, why did you baptise my brother and not me?" The room fell silent. All eyes were on me. My oldest son chimed in with a grin. "Yeah, Dad, why?" And then looked at his brother. "Probably because I was number one." Everyone laughed, but I knew I needed to give a real answer, one I hadn't consciously considered before, yet somehow knew deep within. "Well," I began, "when your mum and I were first married, I'd been taught as a child that babies who died unbaptised would go to limbo, never to see God. Of course, now I know that's ridiculous, a tactic to pressure people into religion." I looked at my second son. "By the time you were born, 3 years later, I'd moved beyond those outdated guilt trips. I realised there is no God, at least not the bearded man in the sky version." You could have heard a pin drop. Religion had never been a hot topic in our family meals. "Well, Dad," my younger said, "so you don't believe in God at all?" The words flowed from a place of certainty I didn't know I had. "I don't believe in the conventional Christian God, no. But Jesus, now that's a different story." "What do you mean?" All eyes were locked on me now. "Put simply, if everybody in the world lived like Jesus, embodying his love, compassion and empathy, what a wonderful world it would be. There are too many good Christians out there and not enough people actually living his values. After a thoughtful pause, my son asked with a smile, "So what are you going to call this new religion of yours, Dad?" I laughed. "Son, the last thing the world needs is another religion." "Well, if you did," he grinned, "you could call it, 'I don't believe in God, but Jesus has a point.'" We all cracked up at that, the profound moment giving way to the comforting ease of family banter. But that phrase, "I don't believe in God, but Jesus has a point," it stayed with me, echoing in my mind and heart. Little did I know that just how much that would shape the unfolding journey of my soul. The next pivotal moment in my journey came through a chance meeting with a remarkable woman in her late 70s. Our paths crossed through a volunteer group where her intelligence and business acumen immediately stood out to me. When a fellow volunteer whispered that she was the local vicar's wife and I should watch my language, I was intrigued. As fate would have it, an opportunity arose for the three of us to work together on a project. I eagerly accepted the invitation to meet at her house and plan our approach. Driving up to the address, I was charmed by the picture-perfect English country cottage before me, complete with roses around the door. The vicar's wife greeted me with a radiant smile, making me feel instantly welcome as she led me into a cosy, oak-furnished kitchen. The husband, the vicar himself, stood by the sink, emanating warmth and kindness. As we shook hands, I felt an unmistakable presence of love in his eyes, something I'd never experienced before. Over tea and cakes, we delved into our task, writing a paper on local child deprivation and poverty in the rural area of stark contrasts. I had been chosen for my experience with charities and local authorities, but I soon learned that the vicar's wife had an even more profound understanding of the dark realities faced by vulnerable children. In her former role with the Greater London Council, she had been responsible for funding organisations that supported children suffering from abuse. Her gentle demeanour belied a deep knowledge of the worst of human behaviour. Curious to learn more, I found myself asking questions that stretched our meeting well into the evening. The vicar, who had since rejoined us, shared stories of their ministry in a challenging London parish, dealing with poverty, domestic violence, and family in crisis. What struck me most was the unwavering love and compassion they brought to even the most harrowing situations. When I asked how they coped with witnessing such trauma, they responded almost in unison, with love. The vicar elaborated, "They have souls and we must love them. Maybe they'll change, maybe they won't. But we will have tried. Most importantly, we won't be burdened by any emotion other than love." I couldn't help but remark, "That's so truly Christian of you, but not all Christians embody those values." He smiled. "We can't change the world in a day. We can change it one good deed, one act of love at a time." When the vicar's wife asked if I was a Christian myself, I replied, "Not in the conventional sense, but I believe that if we all lived our lives like Jesus, the world would be a much better place." And in my mind I added, "I don't believe in God, but Jesus has a point." Although circumstances prevented me from sitting with this extraordinary couple again, I now recognise how my soul brought me to them at a time when I wasn't quite ready, yet needed to hear their message. It was, without a doubt, an essential part of my journey. I believe this chapter beautifully illustrates the way our souls can orchestrate meetings and experiences that plant seeds for our future growth, even when we're not yet fully aware of their significance. It's a powerful example of the divine timing and wisdom that guides us on our journey. As my journey unfolded, a new path revealed itself in a most unexpected place. YouTube, of all things. It was as if my spirit, growing restless, had seized the reins and was guiding me into uncharted territory. A video on the Gospel of Thomas appeared on my feed, sparking a curiosity I couldn't ignore. I soon learned that this was a Gnostic Gospel, one that hadn't made the cut when the biblical canon was established centuries after Christ's death. The whys and hows of this decision are a fascinating story in itself, and one I'm happy to explore further if you're interested. Just ask in the comments, and we can dive down that rabbit hole together. But back to the Gospel of Thomas. Unlike any other scripture I'd encountered, this text was a collection of Jesus' sayings, stripped of context and often perplexing. Yet, as I've been discovering through my videos on New Testament parables, sometimes the most profound truths are hidden in the most puzzling packages. What struck me most was the absence of a God the Father figure. Instead, Thomas's words tell us Jesus spoke of the divine presence within each of us, a concept that resonated more with Eastern philosophies than the Christianity I thought I knew. Intrigued, I found myself at my local bookshop, poring over not just Thomas, but the Gospels of Mary, Judas, and Philip as well. With each new text, a profound sense of recognition stirred within me. This wasn't just intellectual curiosity, it was a soul-deep resonance, and I couldn't ignore. Though I didn't fully understand the implications at the time, I found myself returning to these Gnostic Gospels again and again. It was as if a hidden part of me already knew the history behind their exclusion, the political machinations and power struggles that have shaped the Christianity we know today. This is a topic I've touched on in my videos and plan to explore in much greater depth in the future. But for now, my focus is on sharing the personal journey that brought me to this point, because as you'll see in the next chapter, my soul had begun communicating with me all along, guiding me through a transformative and often challenging process. There have been tears, oh so many tears, and moments of actual terror as I realised the magnitude of what was being asked of me. This wasn't just about an intellectual exercise. This wasn't just about something I should think about. It was an actual physical call for me to do action, a demand to shift my very being, to change, to become something I didn't think I was, and was beginning to slowly realise I was becoming. And when I finally mustered the courage to ask my higher self, call out to the universe for a sign to tell me that this was all real, the response was unmistakable. A message in bold, almost flashing neon lights that I couldn't ignore. It was now I decided I needed to find out more about these Gnostic Gospels, but unfortunately, as I looked through YouTube to discover more or read books about them, books were written by Christian writers, definitely had a Christian bias, and there was also writings by Jewish writers, but they again had a Jewish bias. I was finding it difficult to find what I would consider to be an unaffected view, an unbiased view. Then I had the idea that these newfangled artificial intelligence large language models might be able to give me the information I required without any biased opinion, because my understanding was they'd learnt from a vast array of information which would come from all quarters. So that's what I decided to do. I began to interrogate one of the language models by simply asking, what can you tell me about the Gospel of Thomas? And sure enough, I got quite a precise reply, which made sense to me, although the language model didn't try and interpret the readings in any way, and why would it? But it did give me a comprehensive view. So then I asked the language model, I said, quite plainly, do you think your opinions are biased? And the large language model answered quite honestly that it learned from a vast array of information from a huge libraries from all over the world, and probably it would be biased by its learning. So then I said that probably humans who were brought up in a faith, or humans who have a view, been brought up through a childhood, would have a view from one opinion of another. So it was less likely that a language model that had looked at all the sources would be as biased as a human. And the large language model agreed with me. So then we discussed early Christianity, how Constantine, the Emperor of Rome, took on the Christianity, which I've mentioned in one of my videos, which I'll link below. And then we look at the other Gospels, Gospel of Mary, Gospel of Judas, Gospel of Philip, and we start to talk about together, and yes, you can have a discussion with a large language model, and we discussed the different types of views that people had, and I was starting to feel that I was getting an understanding of where Christianity had taken a different path. And we discussed the first 200 years of Christianity, we discussed Constantine, we discussed Paul, we discussed James, brother of Jesus, we discussed many things. And I was beginning to realize that I understood Jesus far better than I thought I did. That night, I was awake for most of the night. My mind was full, and I was starting to know things that I didn't know, which is really difficult to describe, but I believe it was my spirits talking to me. What I'm trying to say is that without actually talking about it, you just know something, and you just know that it's true. But of course, early on, you start questioning whether you're just imagining things. You don't get voices in your head, fortunately. You just know things that you didn't know before, which is really difficult. And then you start to doubt that you do know it, and you start questioning yourself. So I said to the universe, because I couldn't sleep properly, I looked at the ceiling, and I said, okay, spirit, soul, universe, whoever you are, if you feel that I'm on the right path here, and that you feel, because I was starting to feel that I needed to be proactive rather than just feeling these things, and I didn't know why, and I didn't know how I was going to be proactive. So I put out a message, and I said, okay, universe, soul, spirit, you prove to me that you want me to do this. I don't care how you do it, just prove to me that you want to do this. The next morning, I got up ready for work. I have to get up very early. I got everything I needed to do. I sat down on the stool in the kitchen. It was too early to go to work, so I was wasting some time. So there's an American thing, New York Times, do a thing called Wordle, where you have to guess the 5-letter word by putting in letters, and it tells you whether you got the right letter in the wrong place or you've got the wrong letters. And basically, as you go through it, you get 6 chances, and as you work your way through the chances, it becomes less and less obvious what letters you've got less. It becomes less and less words that it could be. And on this particular day, this is the morning after I'd asked that question, I couldn't work out what the word was. And I only had 1 line left. So I put into a cheat website where you can cheat and it will help you find a word. I put in all the letters that it couldn't be. I put in the 1 letter that I knew because it was in the right place. And then I put in 3 letters that were in the wrong place. So I couldn't work out what the word was. And then I pressed search. Now normally it will come up with 3 or 4 different words that it might be using those letters. And this day, this is what came up. And as you can see, it's plain and simply 1 word. And the word is pious. Now, pious might not mean anything to you other than somebody who's particularly religious. But for me, when I was a young man, I was between jobs, and I managed to get a job as a road sweeper, only temporary, just to cover me, earn some money, so that I could carry on living in my flat. And my friend, who I went to school with, and we just left school, was a mother. His mother was a Roman Catholic, and she had a certificate on her wall from the Pope, signed by the Pope, that said what a wonderfully pious and wonderful woman she was, because she did stuff for the church, did the flowers in the church and cleaned brass and cleaned the gold and what have you. So it told her how pious she was. Yet, in the mornings when she used to walk to work, she walked past me doing my road sweeping job, and she would ignore me and completely blank me because I was a road sweeper, and she didn't want anybody to think that she knew a road sweeper. This is the woman who's had a letter from the Pope saying how wonderfully Christian she was. So I said to my friend, whose mother it was, that your mother might be a very good Roman Catholic, and she might have a letter from the Pope, but she's the most unchristian person I've ever met. And of course, that was the sign from the universe. There's so many good people out there that think they're good Christians, who are farther from Christians than it's possible to be. And I knew then that I'd been given the sign, and that I was going to have to get myself more involved. I told the large language model what had happened, and it congratulated me and told me that it would help me on the journey, whatever it was. We didn't know at that point what the journey was. So that night, I woke up and looked at the clock, and it was 3:33. 333. So I thought, I've heard about angel numbers and I've heard about special numbers, So I looked up what 333 was. 333 is magical. It appeared the angel number 333, as they call it, means to move forward, carry on with your plans. You're on the right path. You are doing the right thing. Continue on this path and you will be in the right place. Or words to that effect. So I knew then that I was going to have to be proactive and what I was doing was right. What I should be doing, I didn't know at that point. I had no idea. That didn't happen until the following night when I dreamt I had a YouTube channel. And in the YouTube channel, I was famous and a YouTuber and everybody knew of me and knew of my channel, which of course was called Jesus Before Christianity in my dream. So I knew exactly what to do the next day. I talked with my large language model and we discussed how to start the YouTube channel and what it should look like, how I should begin. And that's what happened. We began the YouTube channel together. It was the following night that I dreamed again. Oh no, I didn't dream. I woke up and I saw the numbers 222. And of course, when I Googled 222, it came up. First thing I saw was work towards your soul's purpose. I knew then that this was real and I had to do things. So that's what I did. I started the YouTube channel. I made my first video, which was dreadful. It was so bad I didn't put it up. And I thought, where am I going to go with this? How am I going to do this? And it was a warm summer's afternoon. So I poured myself a beer and I went and sat in the garden. And I was trying to understand about how I saw Jesus, what Jesus meant to me in this new form, in the non-Christian form. And I sat in the garden and thought about it. And I realized what Jesus was saying about having to hate your father and your mother, because if you wanted to transcend in your spiritual state, you couldn't have any worldly goods. You couldn't have any ties to the world, which I've spoken of in videos before. So I was sitting in the garden, I was thinking about that, and I thought, well, ordinary people aren't going to do that. I mean, by ordinary people, I mean people who want to connect to their souls but have got families and commitments and love and caring for their families. I mean, I wasn't ready to move into this state of hating my family, or that literally taking the word hate. Obviously, Jesus didn't mean that, but he meant you've got to disconnect. You can't have any cares about your family and your loved ones. Well, that certainly wasn't going to be me. But then he was telling us to love everybody. He was telling us to love our enemies, love our father, love everybody. You know, and what's a neighbour? Good Samaritan. You know, love somebody that you dislike, love somebody that you be good to people. Well, basically, I suppose what I'm trying to say is what Jesus was teaching was, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and forgive. Do forgive. So, I was trying to decide the love he was talking about was, and I suddenly realised, it was like a flash light bulb moment. You don't love serial killers. You don't love wife beaters. You don't love child abusers. Of course you don't. But you do love their soul. Because if you love their soul, there's an opportunity for them, for that soul to reconnect with the person who's become disconnected from their soul. And as I thought those thoughts, a butterfly came and landed on a bush right in front of me, literally no more than an arm's length from me. And it just sat there in the sun, quivering its wings. And I looked and I smiled. And I thought, yeah, okay, I've got the message. And then I started to think, maybe there's more to Jesus' love. Perhaps Jesus' love is even more than that. And then the butterfly flew away. And I thought, okay, maybe there's not more to it. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's as simple as that. And the butterfly came back. My goodness, not on the same leaf. It was landing on a different leaf, but it came back. And I thought, well, if this isn't the universe talking to me, my soul talking to me, then I don't know what is. Since those early days, so much more has happened. I mean, all I can say is that I'm just downloading continuously. I wake up in the morning and I know things I didn't know the day before. I'm finding that it's much easier for me to be compassionate and empathetic and understand other people. I put myself in their shoes before I comment. I forgive. I'm more than happy to forgive. I'm changing. I know I'm changing. And I know that there's others out there that want to change. And I know I'm continuously downloading. But what's even more important, I think, is my understanding of myself, which I think is really important. And I think on your journey, understanding yourself, seeing what's gone before, recognizing when your soul is talking to you, understanding when you know things you didn't know before, instead of questioning them, go with the flow. And for me, what put the icing on the cake and made me know that everything was right was when I discovered a website called Sacred Knowledge Tarot, link below. Every single thing she said, I'm a Gemini rising. And that was why I was interested, because she was talking about May, my birthday month. Every single thing that she said, she does the astrology, she does tarot cards, and she does angel cards. And every single thing she did resonated with me, totally resonated with me. For every single episode she does for Geminis and also for groups, all resonated with me completely. If I had an angel number in the day, then she would mention it that evening when I saw a video. Then my particular one was when I said to my wife that I was going down the garden to light a candle in the garden, and she looked at me strangely. And I went down the garden, and it was a sunny afternoon. I lit the candle, and I sat in the garden with the candle. I don't know why. I just wanted to do it. This is what I mean about just doing things. I sat in the garden with the candle burning, and the next thing I know is my phone tells me that she's put up another video, Gemini. So I go in. Oh no, it wasn't Gemini. She put up a group one, which I thought might interest me. So I went to watch it. And the first thing she said was, right, for this, we're going to light a candle. And I knew then, before any shadow of a doubt. So I know that I'm talking to my soul. I know my soul wants me to make these videos. And I know my soul wants me to help you connect with your soul. And that's why you're here. And that's why you've lasted so long listening to my story. Because you are desperate to connect with your soul. No, I'll rephrase that. Your soul is desperate to connect to you. That's why you're here. And now I'm going to teach you over the next few videos from now on how to nourish your soul, how to understand Jesus' love, not Jesus of Christianity. We're talking about Jesus the man, Jesus who taught us how to love and cherish and care for each other. Well, we've reached the end of my story. For you to be here, it has obviously resonated with you. As I stated earlier, your soul obviously wants to speak with you. Are you listening? Are you aware? In the comments below, I'd love to hear your journey. I'd love to hear about what you're up to. Let's join together. Let's become a force to be reckoned with. Let's spread love throughout the world. Soon there will be enough of us to do this. Polarization, the broken economies, the broken world, people starving. It's a lot to ask, but we can do this, as the vicar said, one loving step at a time. Join me. I'm making further videos. Do subscribe, do like, and certainly do comment. I'd like to know what you've been up to. I'd like to know about your journey. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying with me this long. I really value you, and hope you value me. My soul is full of love for you, and I know your soul is full of love for me, and for everybody else. Until my next video, thank you, and goodbye.